Welcome back, folks, for a new episode of Elite. And today we're going to talk about a special Tier 10 Premium Heavy Tank. It is going to be the final reward for the second season of Personal Missions. And it is the American T58 Heavy Tank. So like the Object 260, this tank will be really hard to get. And it will be worthwhile because it is crazy. So it is like the T57 Heavy, but it has a bigger gun. So yeah, it's crazy. Now, like the T57 Heavy, the T58 was designed with the oscillating turret and an autoloader, but this tank doesn't have the nuclear protection program or system that was necessary for Cold War era tanks. So like the T57 Heavy, the T58 was scrapped in favor of the M103. So nothing came out of this project whatsoever. So this was mostly a blueprint mock-up of a prototype, whatever. So the main difference between the T58 and the T57 is that the T57 has a clip-like autoloading system, whereas for the T58 has a drum-like revolver-shaped magazine instead of a clip. So you can see from the picture right here, this is a T57 Heavy's turret. So you can see the internal clip right here. So this is like a Mauser handgun, you know, the little clip thing, they put it into a Mauser handgun. It's like that, or like the AC-130's 40mm gun, so like a giant clip. So it's like a clip, like a magazine. That's basically what the turret does. Now with the T58 Heavy's loading system, you can see that it's a drum instead of a clip, so it's like a revolver. It has a 6-round shot of 155mm gun. Yeah, this tank is way too good. So like the Object 260, this tank is highly OP, but it will be so hard to get this tank, and like only one person will have it, so it'll be worthwhile. Now this tank is a lot bigger than the T57 Heavy. So the hull armor is the same, but the turret is a lot bigger. So you can see from this picture right here. Here is the T57 Heavy, and here's the T58. So the turret is a lot bigger to incorporate the 155mm instead of the 120, and the drum system in the back of the turret. So yeah, it's a lot slower, less accurate, and bigger. So yeah, here is the frontal shot, side shot, and top to bottom point of view. So the turret is a lot bigger. So it's like a KV2, American KV2, but the turret is a oval shape, you know, gigantic turret because the gun is so huge. So here you can see the drum in the back of the turret. Here is the gunner. The loader is right behind him to load the gigantic drum, and the tank pump out a lot of shots, 6 rounds. Yep, it's a crazy tank. So you can see that tanks before the T58 has a clip-like system, like the T69. There's a clip. The T54 E1, there's a clip. And T57, there's a clip, but with the T58, there's a drum. So this tank has a drum-like system, and in my opinion, it's like a Foch 155, except you have 3 more rounds. That's crazy. And here are the in-game models for the T58 Heavy Tank. Now this tank looks a lot like the T57, except for the turret. The turret is a little bit bigger because it has a house, the 155mm gun. The hull armor is the same as the M103. So this tank looks a lot like the T57. A little bit bloated or fatter version of the T57. Still decent looking in comparison to stuff like the Waffentrigger E100. Ugh, that thing is a barn. This tank is still decent looking of a tank. Passable. So like the T57 Heavy, this tank doesn't have armor to be a heavy tank. So it's like a fat medium. Play this tank like a fat medium too. So the armor isn't that good on the turret, and it has less sloping than the T57. So you'll get easily penetrated with the turret. And since the ammo or drum is in the turret, you have to be careful. And you get ammo rack easily. But here are the main stats for the T58 Heavy Tank. So it's going to be a Tier 10 Special American Heavy Tank from the campaign or personal missions. so it has a crew of 4. Hit points is 2,250, which is decent enough. Engine is 800 horsepower, which is not that great because the weight is about 60 tons. So power to weight ratio is about 13.35, which is alright for a heavy tank, but this tank has no armor, so you have to be careful with the power to weight ratio. Top speed is 35.4 kilometers per hour. Reverse is 12. Hull traverse is not that fast, 30 degrees per second. Turret traverse is very slow, 18 degrees per second, so you have to be careful. It is not as maneuverable as the T57, so this tank plays more like a slower version of the T57. The terrain resistance is 1.1 for hard, 1.3 for medium, and 2.4 for soft, which is not good. It's kind of rough, but it's alright for the hard terrain resistance. Medium is alright, 2.4 for soft is kind of bad. View range is low, 390 meters for a heavy tank at tier 10, so view range is not that good. Radio range is standard, above 700. Hull armor is the same as the M103, 203 at the front, 50 at the sides, and 38 at the rear. Turret armor is 127 at the front, 83 at the sides, and 51 at the rear. So, yeah, it doesn't have that much armor. Gun is 155mm L40 T180. So it's a big gun. Damage is 750 damage per shot. Penetration is 273, which is very good. Rate of fire is about 6.2 rounds per minute, so DPM is off the charts, 4,658. Amazing. There's 6 shells in the drum, but it will take about 45 seconds to reload. So it's a long time to reload between drums. Inter-shell reload time is 2.7 to 7 seconds, so it's like a French autoloader instead of American, so it takes time between each shot. Accuracy is not that good, 0.37, so Aim time is also not that good, 3.1 seconds. Gun elevation is also not good, 12 degrees. Gun depression is decent, 8 degrees. So it's like a fatter version and a slower version of the T57 heavy tank. The armor is the same with less sloping on the turret, so you could still bounce a few shots, but this turret is more important to the T58 than the T57 because of the ammo rack in the back, so you have to be careful. But this tank is basically DPM monster, and yeah, if it has a full clip, you're in trouble. So this tank is pretty crazy. And let's compare the T58 with the T57 heavy tank. Now both tanks don't have that much armor, so don't rely on it. Play this thing like a fat medium. The frontal hull is decent around the beak, but if you get hit in the upper glacis or the lower glacis, you'll get penetrated. The turret armor won't save you that much because the best would be 300mm, but that's around the gun, around the ring of the gun. So yeah, don't depend on it. The rest of the turret is about 130-ish, so yeah, the turret sucks. So armor wise, it's not a traditional heavy tank. Play this thing like a fat medium. Alright, the health is the same, 2,250. The T58 weighs 5 tons more, but has 10 less horsepower for the engine. So horsepower per ton ratio is not as good, 13.35 in comparison to 14.88. So yeah, not as good. Hull traverse is the same hull. Top speed is 35.4, which is the same. Reverse is 12, the same. Terrain resistance is the same for hard, a little bit worse for medium, and a little bit worse for soft. So the T58 does get bogged down a little bit more than the T57. The turret traverse is a lot worse, only 18 degrees per second in comparison to 37.5. That's almost double. That's almost twice the difference. Holy crap, the gun is so huge. Jesus. The hull traverse is the same, 30 degrees per second. The turret traverse is not as good. Ugh. The view range is 10 meters less, so that sucks. Radio range is standard at 700 plus, so alright. So most of the trade-off is in the gun. The gun has more penetration, 273 millimeters in comparison to 258. So that's good. Damage is a lot more because it's a bigger gun. DPM is off the charts in comparison to the T57, and the T57 has actually the best DPM. So this tank gets the best DPM. That's crazy. It has 6 shells in the drum in comparison to 4 shells in the drum, but this tank reloads the drum at 44.322 seconds instead of 23.97 seconds. So it takes almost double amount of time to reload the drum. Alright. Reloads every 2.7 seconds between shells. So it's more like a French autoloading gun than American, because Americans reload about 2 seconds between each shell instead of 2.7. So yeah, you cannot clip out that fast. Aim time is not as good, 3.1 seconds in comparison to 2.78. So takes longer to aim. Accuracy is kind of poor, 0.37 in comparison to 0.33. So yeah, accuracy is not as good. Gun elevation is the same, gun depression is the same. So this tank is basically DPM. There's no armor and is a little bit sluggish, so you have to rely on the gun to pump out 6 shots of 155mm damage. Yeah, you have to depend on the gun, but it's a one-trick pony. This tank is all damage all day long. So that's what you're getting for. And the final verdict on the T58 heavy tank is that this tank is basically one-trick pony, and that trick is DPM. The accuracy is not as good, the aim time is not as good, the gun elevation is not as good, the mobility is not as good, the armor is not as good. So in all essence, this tank is not as good as a tier 10 heavy tank. But the one good part, which is the amazing part about this tank, is the DPM. It has 6 shells per drum, and you can clip a mouse and a half within 15 seconds of shooting. So yeah, it's one trick pony, but you have to make sure you kill the target, because this tank cannot run away if it's reloading. It doesn't have the mobility as a AMX 50B or the T57, so yeah, you better make sure you kill the target. But 6 rounds, I think you could. So yeah, I think this tank would be pretty OP, and I think a lot of people will be rigging individual missions or personal missions just for this tank. That's how OP this thing is. Even though most of its stats are not that good, it's mostly the same or even worse than the T57, but the gun makes up for this tank. So try to get it. Yeah, try to get it. Don't rig the game, alright? Don't rig individual missions. Just work for it. It feels better. It feels better if you work for something than stupid rigging and piece of crap. Don't do that. So thank you guys always for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a comment below on what you think about the T58 heavy tank. Subscribe to my channel for more World of Tanks stuff, and follow me on Twitter, Facebook, whatever. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.